Hi, I am Morgan Atkins, and I am the owner of Night Sky Real Estate. And this video is what buyers need to know when you're getting ready to buy a home. This is going to be a video that just goes over the entire process, just from start to finish, so that you know what to expect, because there is a lot, and I like that you would have a video to go back and reference and kind of know what we're going to be doing and kind of what the process entails. So I do have my little cheat sheet here because it is a lot. So you're thinking about buying a house, you have reached out to me to be your real estate agent, and I am super excited about that. And thank you so much. The first thing that I am going to require from you is for you to email me or text me a photo of your valid ID. And this will be a valid ID for anyone who will be on the contract. So whoever is purchasing the home or helping purchase the home or will be on the deed to the home or title to the home, I need a copy of their valid ID. This is for multiple reasons. One, I need to make sure that I have your legal government name correct on all the paperwork from the beginning. Otherwise, it causes us to have to backtrack a little bit and do some modifications. The second is I do this before I meet any potential clients. So that way I can protect myself. I know who I am meeting. Most real estate agents do require this. So that is one of the first things that we are going to do. The second thing is going to be getting you the pre-approval. If you have not started the pre-approval process to get approved for a mortgage, I can recommend several places or several lenders that I highly, highly recommend to use. I have closed with one of them, I think 8 times in the past 6 months. And every single time we have closed between 16 and 20 days. And it did not matter what popped up, what kind of loan it was, they got the deal done. So I have some amazing lenders that I work with, and I would love to uh, give you their information to help get you pre-approved. That is something that we do need beforehand. A lot of homeowners do not want people in their house if they can't actually buy the house. If they can't afford the home, they don't want you wasting their time or even being inside their home because some people just think it's weird. So we do need that pre-approval before we can go look at any homes. The other thing that we have to have before we can go look at any homes is an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. This is the agreement between us. This says that I will represent you as your and realtor, and you will be my client. It goes over my commission pricing, how much I charge, and there'll be a separate video to just goes over this in detail so that way that you can understand what we are looking at. And I will have a separate video for that. But that has to be signed. As of August 17th, 2024, I cannot legally open any door for you without this being signed. It starts off as a $500 fine for me. So any realtor that's opening doors for you and doesn't have that signed, if they're willing to risk the legality of them getting fined $500, what are they willing to risk on your end for you to lose? I do negotiate hard, but I do play by the books. I know my laws and I know my real estate laws very well. So we would need to get that signed and we can discuss like what we're going to do with it when that time comes. Now, once we have that signed and we have our pre-approval, and the pre-approval can take like maybe 24 hours, 48 tops, we are ready to go start shopping. So you're going to have a list of homes, and I may even have to like come back and be like, hey, this one's out of our price range. Let's not look at it. And the reason that I would do that is because if we go look at this house that's $50,000 above your price range, and I can't negotiate it down because that's a lot of money, you're going to fall in love with that house. And the house that's $50,000, $100,000 less is never going to compare. It's never going to compare. So if realistically, I know you cannot get a certain house that you are wanting to look at, I'm not going to take you to that house. And it's not me not wanting to take you to look at homes. I promise that I want to take you to look at all the homes that we can. I don't want you to fall in love with something you can't have. And then the things that you can have, which are going to be great, will never compare. So we're going to start shopping. We're going to start looking at houses. We're going to go through your list. It's going to be great. We're going to spend hours on the road. Now you found the house that you want. You've fallen in love. You love the house. You want to put in an offer. We are going to discuss what we want to do with the offer, what's important to you. Like, do you need money, help with the down payment versus money off the asking price? We're going to discuss and know what is your best interest. What do you need? Because every single one of my clients are absolutely different. And I want to make sure that you are getting what you need. So we're going to put in an offer, and the seller, once I write up the offer, you will sign the offer. I will send that offer to the seller's agent. I usually put a 24-hour time period for the sellers to make a decision. So when I send you that to sign, I will have like 25, 26 hours maybe from the time I send it to you. So it's really important for you, like when you know I'm writing up a contract and I'm sending it to you, it's important for you to be ready to sign it. I do send it DocuSign for all my Georgia people. It is sent dot loop for my Alabama people. I have done DocuSign for my Alabama as well. I do prefer DocuSign, so 99% of the time I'm going to use DocuSign. So you can sign it from your phone. Review it, make sure it's right, make sure I did not miss anything, obviously, but it is imperative that you sign it as quickly as possible, because once you sign it and I get it back that it's signed, that is when I will be sending it to the sellers. And then they will have to go by that expiration time, which should be hopefully at that point 24 hours from the time that I send it, to come back at us. They can decline it, they can counter it. And if they counter it, that means they're coming back and they're saying, hey, we're not going to do this, but we will do this. Or they can just accept it. And usually they're going to counter it at least once. They're going to counter at least once, because I go in hard with my negotiations right off the bat to try and get the most for my clients. So one thing that we are not going to do is go back and forth a ton of times. So here's a fun fact for you. Once you have negotiated back and forth 3 times, it goes from a business transaction to a personal transaction. And we don't want to make this personal between you and the seller, because it becomes tit for tat and no one wins in the end on those situations. High selling times, like during COVID, it's a little bit different, because it remained business for a little bit longer because it was just trying so hard to get everything out. But right now, especially, a lot of people are just going to be like, yeah, they're going to keep asking for stuff and they're going to pass and move on. And we're not going to do that. We're going to negotiate. We're going to be hardcore straight up front. We're going to tell them what we want, and we're going to get the best possible outcome for you. Now, your contract has been accepted. We have agreed on all the terms. We are under contract. What does this mean? This means you're about to get a lot of stuff really fast. First thing, your earnest money that we have agreed upon in your contract has to be paid. It has to be paid. Please pay it that first day, because I have had agents come at me and be like, even though I have 3 days on that contract, they want it cleared from the bank account on that 3rd day. And some are fine with just showing that it was sent that first day. So we need to get that sent immediately. I am going to try and keep the earnest money at my brokerage. I almost always have gotten that. I have done the closing attorney keeping it, and I'll do a separate video on earnest money as well to explain that. But you're going to have to pay your earnest money. You'll be getting an email to pay for your appraiser. That will come from the lender. You need to pay the appraiser as soon as you get that. You're looking at between like $500 to $800 to pay for the appraisal. This needs to be done so the appraisal can be ordered, so we can get this closed on time. Then the third thing is I'm going to be helping you find an inspector. I have multiple inspectors that I work with. I have several that I love, different areas, different states. I have great inspectors. So here's what we are going to do with that is you're going to have to pay the inspector, and we need to get that inspector out there as soon as possible, because we need him out during the due diligence period. And every situation is going to be different. Some due diligence periods are 3 days, some are 5 days, some are 7 days. I doubt we're going to get longer. Sometimes we can get longer. So during that time, we need to get the inspector out there. We need to get the inspection back during this due diligence, because that's when I can back out. And this is for my Georgia people only. Alabama doesn't have a due diligence, but it does kind of go with this. So do pay attention. When we get that inspection back, we need to be able to communicate what is important to you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, inspections are terrifying. They're terrifying to read. It doesn't matter. Even the best houses are terrifying to read. New construction, 20 pages. Okay. Things that, may not be proper or, up to code, or, well, it should be up to code, but like, you're going to have something. It is their job to find everything wrong with this house, and no seller is going to fix every single little bitty thing. So we need to figure out what is important to you. What are big issues on this inspection? What matters to you? Because every single client I have had has had something that mattered to them that may be small and tiny to someone else. I have had someone who was like, hey, I can't deal with the paint not being like it's not proper. I can't deal with that. I need the house to be painted or them to put money towards paint. That was so important to them. And that's what mattered to them. But they did not care about the electrical issues because they were in the electrical field. They could actually fix that themselves. So we need to figure out what's important to you, what you want to get fixed. If anything at all, depends on how much you want the house and what you're willing to put up with. So now you've paid for your earnest money, you've paid your inspector, we have had the inspection, you've paid for the appraisal, it's been ordered. Once we send over the amendment to address concerns, that's going to give the seller and be like, hey, this is what we want fixed on the house. We need all this fixed. And they are probably going to counter again and be like, hey, we'll fix this. Or they may want to give money, or they may want to take money off the asking price. We've got to figure out what works for you and what works for them. And this is part of negotiation, is where do we want to compromise with them? We need to get what we need to get, but we also have to work with what the sellers can do as well. So we are working together, but I'm going to be pushing for your side 110% to get what you need first, because if this house doesn't work for you, we need to go find another one. We have just during the due diligence period to do this. So everything is very fast paced that first week, and everything has to be signed off on by all parties. The amendment to address concerns has to be signed off on by all parties before the end of the due diligence period. Otherwise, you are locked into this contract, whether that house is fixed or not, or you're getting what you want or not. So if we don't have an agreed upon thing with the amendment to address concerns, we now have to cancel. We have to send over a termination of contract, because you do have that right while you're under the due diligence. The next thing is lender documents. If you are working with one of the lenders I have recommended, I'm going to tell you right now, give them the documents that they need. Please don't question them. They need these documents. They are going to do everything they can to make sure you are getting approved, you're getting the best deal, you're getting the best rate, and that we close on time. So they may ask for what seems off the wall and random to you, or a different variation of something that you may have already sent them. Send it to them. They're not trying to take advantage of you. They're not trying to steal your money, because guess what? If this deal doesn't close, most of the lenders I work with don't get paid. They do not get paid unless this deal closes, unless they get you approved. So if they put all these hours of work into your loan and they can't make it go through, they have made $0. They have worked for free. So they are going to do everything in their power to make sure that your loan closes. And again, this is for the lenders I work with, and I can tell you which lenders don't do that if you're trying to work with one of your own. Some lenders get paid regardless. Most of the ones that I work with do not. So we will need to make sure that we're getting them their documentation. The other reason is your earnest money is something that I try and protect, and I always put in there. You will have a exhibit for your loan, and saying if you don't get approved for the loan, you get your earnest money back. But there is a stipulation in there that states that if the reason that you did not get approved for your loan is because the lender didn't get the documentation they needed from you, you don't get your earnest money back. So you need to get them that documentation as quickly as possible. The other thing is, it does state in a timely manner. So when they ask for it, please get them the paperwork. Just get them the paperwork. One of the biggest things I will go ahead and address right now is if you're buying a second home and you're keeping your first home, they are going to need a copy of your homeowner's insurance. And this is a number one question I get with every single buyer that I've had that is still keeping their first home. Why do they need that? Because that is counted towards your debt to income ratio, because it is a bill that comes out every single month. So it's not them trying to make sure you have homeowners insurance on that. It is it's doing your debt to income ratio. You are going to have to get homeowners insurance on your new home. You have to provide that to the lender. So because that counts towards your debt to income ratio. So as soon as we go up under contract, you need to start shopping for homeowners insurance and set it up to start like the day before or the day of closing. If we move closing at all, you will need to change that. So now so make sure you are working with your lender. Please work with your lender, because I work with some fantastic lenders. They will get stuff closed, but you have to work with us. You're going to go through a waiting period. During this waiting period, it's a good time, start looking into your utilities and getting them scheduled to be transferred over. When I send over the contract, as soon as we go binding, I do request to know who the utility companies are. And as soon as they let me know, I will let you know. I've had to fight for this up until the day of closing before, because they don't want to tell me. So you may have to do a little bit of research, but go ahead and start calling utility companies and making sure that you are set up to have all your stuff turned over into your name on the day of closing. If they require a down payment, you might want to wait a little bit closer to our clear to close date, so that way we know that you are going to be able to close. Final numbers. The final numbers, you will get a estimated. That's just a guess. Final number statement from the lender. You might get a couple during this process. Don't send that money. That's not the money that we're going to send to anyone. That is an estimate. It's just to give you an idea. Now, I will say one of the lenders I work with is really good, because he knows his fees, and we have worked with the same closing attorney so much that he is usually pretty close to knowing exactly how much it is, because my attorney does not really change their fees hardly at all. And so they're pretty spot on with it, but those numbers do change constantly. So the amount that you are going to wire is going to come from the closing attorney. Now, there are other situations where we have been really pushing the closing or had to move it up and did not get the final numbers from the attorney in time for it to be wired. So what we've done is we've taken the estimate that the lender has gave us and sent like an extra $1,000 or $2,000 and wired that to the attorney. So that way we knew we were covered. And what the attorney did is they either wired it back into the client's account, or they would actually write them a check right there at closing, because they overpaid the closing fees. So those are some options. The other thing is the wire instructions will come directly from the closing attorney. They will not come from me. They will not come from the lender. They're not going to come from an outside source. They're not going to come from anywhere random. They will come from the closing attorney only. Those are the only wiring instructions you are to use. When you get your wire instructions, you are to wire them directly from the bank. You're not going to do it from your phone. I know that I Bank of America, and they're like, oh, you can wire money from your phone. Not with this. We are not. You're going to go up there and you're going to tell them we are wiring it from the bank. There are fees to wire money, just FYI. And that is the only way that you will wire it. We're not doing it over the phone. We're not doing it from Walmart. We're not doing it online, from a physical bank. So you need to know your banking hours. And if you know that we're pushing the banking hours, possibly be prepared to send a little bit more and send the money a little bit earlier. The other thing is we can't get clear to close until the appraisal comes back. Now, most appraisals take about 2 weeks to come back. Sometimes they're faster. One of the lenders I work with really has the fastest appraisals I've ever seen. I have had appraisal back before my due diligence ended before, but usually we're looking at about 2 weeks or so. Can be a little bit more. So we have to wait on the appraisal to come back. And if for some reason the appraisal comes back and it is less than what we have offered, we will have to go back and negotiate with the owners to see like, hey, are you going to drop the price? And if they refuse to drop the price, then you would either have to come up with the gap in money from how much the house appraised for to how much we agreed to pay, or we can back out. Um, I usually am right on the money with the appraisals. Like when I say right on the money, I'm right there at it. Um, because we usually offer under asking in most cases. Obviously, different markets require different things. At the closing table, the buyer has to be there. You have to be there and you have to have a valid ID on you when you get to the closing table. If for some reason you cannot make it to closing, you know you are the buyer, you cannot make it to closing, we're going to have to do a temporary power of attorney specifically for this transaction. So what we're going to need to do is make sure that we have already set that up. So if you know I cannot make it to this closing, I am going to be out of the country, gone, can't do it. We need to know immediately so we can get a power of attorney set up and have someone who can physically be there. The buyer is going to be signing so many papers. You're going to feel like you're signing your life away. Closings take between 30 minutes to an hour because you are signing so many papers. So many papers when the sellers don't have to sign nearly as many, but the buyers do. So I want to make sure that you are aware of what you are doing. A lot of them are going to be what looks like repeats, like you're going to re-sign the statements, you're going to re-sign, all your lender's documents, you're going to see all those again, all the paperwork. Just make sure you're looking over them to make sure they're correct. I'm going to look over the ones that I get copies of and make sure that they're correct. I don't see any of your mortgage documents. I don't see any of those. I will see how much down payment you are paying. I will see how much your loan is for. I don't know anything else about your loan. So I cannot answer those questions. So you will need to reach out to your lender if you have questions on those. Um, and I think that's pretty much it. Once you sign all the papers, you will get the keys to your new home and you will walk out of there a homeowner. Most of the closings I do a right around between the 16 to 21 day mark. I have them walking out. I think the longest closing I've had to date is 22 days. And that was in Alabama, who is notoriously known for their slow closings. Um, yeah, so that is pretty much a lot of like kind of the overview of the process. I know it seems like a lot, and it is. And there's going to be other videos breaking down each step of the process so that way I can help you understand what you're going through. But this is your start to finish what to expect when buying a home. If you feel overwhelmed, you should, because it is a lot, but I am always here to guide you every single step, and I will be here to guide you through the entire process from the start to showing you the houses to the finish, and we will get there. And I cannot wait to see you at that closing table.